Okay, now I'm going to give you a brief introduction to some of the most used filters. I will begin with one of the new filters from Photoshop's latest version, Oil Paint. This filter is found among the first line here. The effect looks as oil painting. I can edit the stroke angles, etc. in order to get different textures. Another filter is lens correction. When we use some kind of lens on our camera, sometimes the image gets distorted, and Photoshop corrects this distortion by going to Filter, Lens Correction Custom. We can remove some distortions such as fish eyes effect. We can remove distortions such as vignette effect or dark edges. This picture has dark edges, so we can make the edges to go lighter or darker. When we work on lighter or darker edges, we can also make the midpoint to be larger or smaller. We also have horizontal and vertical perspective distortion. We can try to repair an image perspective. Also, eye-fish distortion by colors. Among the filters generalities, we will find two antagonist filters, blur and sharpen. Sharpen will focus the length and blur will do the opposite. Here we go to Filter, Blur. All the lines here will apply blur effects. The most classic is Gaussian blur, which is the typical length blur. We also have motion blur to simulate horizontal movement or fast speed. We also have blur distortions as a radial blur, which makes some circle movement effects. And much more blur effects. The opposite of blur is sharpen. Sharpen tries to focus the length. If you look at the before and after, you will notice the stone look more detailed. Obviously, we can abuse Sharpen tool because if I press Ctrl F several times, it gets to a point that image gets distorted from too much trying to sharpen it. We also have the artistic filters, which are found on Filter Gallery. On this line, you will see artistic. All these filters are simulating some kind of illustration technique. If you notice, here some brown is appearing. This is because some filters use some of the colors already on the picture. For example, if I choose black and white and I enter Filter Gallery, Artistic, I will see when I come here it shows gray because I choose black and white, etc. etc. Each one among these try to emulate some artistic technique. We also have textures, which are found on the Filter Gallery as well. You go to Texture. This is a charge window type texture. They all have different distortion we can edit. We also have distortions. This is found here under Blur. Let me show you one. I pick this area on the floor to distort it. Wave. No. Filter, distortion, zigzag. Let me increase here and here. And it looks as if a water drop fell there. It's a distortion. It looks liquid. All we are trying to distort image. We also find noise and pixelate. In this case, we find noise here, trying to pollute the image. It can be Gaussian, modern-tided, or uniform. Pixelate. You must have seen this effect on the news. You can see how it looks. Perhaps we want to hide the plate number. We can select this part, filter it, pixelate, mosaic. Now this part is distorted. It is covered now. One of the most popular among pixelate are the color halftone, which try to emulate offset printing dots effect. We also have render filters. Among render filters, one of the most famous one is this, length flare. It is some kind of sun emerging on the image, making some type of halo. This is a brief introduction to what can Photoshop filters do.